Hey everybody, it's meteorologist Jamie Singleton with you here on a Friday night, watching some strong storms out and about this evening. And I want to point out that Laura is not moving in as we speak. It's still off to our west, but we are in a tropical air mass out ahead of Laura. This is one of the waves that'll be moving through tonight. And even with this wave, I'm looking at a considerable amount of wind shear that's spin in the atmosphere, and we've got a sufficient amount of instability and a ton of tropical air that's been brought in around Laura. So these are indirect effects of Laura moving in. You might say just the air outside is just getting tropical out there. And we've got a fair amount of storm activity that I've been watching through a good part of the evening. The most intense storm that I'm looking at right now is in Amherst County. And we'll talk about Saturday in just a second, because I think all threats are still on the table, especially for tomorrow morning. But in the near term, it's right now that we're looking at storms north and west of Amherst. Right there on Route 60 near Pleasant View, north of Coleman Falls. This is moving toward the Fancy Hill, Lowesville area. Some very heavy rain in here. And I've been watching for the possibility of some rotation as well. I haven't seen too much immediately in our area, but we do have a sufficient amount of wind shear to get me a little concerned for maybe something spinning up here. And you can actually see there's some rotation in this cell. It's very broad, but it's there nonetheless, and that is again in Amherst County, just east of Lexington. And some of this lightning data is showing up near Buena Vista, jumping out from that storm. A lot of lightning in that storm in Amherst County. Looking elsewhere, we had a strong storm in Halifax County earlier. That's now near Chase City in the Mecklenburg County. These storms are coming and going as the night goes on. I have noticed that the past few frames, this Patrick County storm has weakened just a little bit. We've also seen some activity down across North Carolina. And speaking of North Carolina, some new storms popping up near Winston-Salem and the Thomasville. These are moving up to the north. So special weather statements have covered it for the most part on these storms. They've gone heavy enough to warrant that, enough lightning to definitely grab your attention. There's a lot of soupy air out there, and these could go strong or severe in a real quick hurry. So I'm watching that, and even though the sun is setting now, there's still a lot of moisture in the air that's going to allow for the instability to continue. In some areas tonight will be more unstable than tomorrow. And you'll see why, because tomorrow could just be some rain, and we may not have much instability, even though we have wind shear tomorrow to worry about too. We've got a new severe thunderstorm warning for extreme southwestern Virginia here. This is issued by the National Weather Service out in Morristown, Tennessee. That is until 8:15. This is near Abington, moving northeast at 20. Quarter-sized hail, 60-mile-per-hour winds possible with this. Let's take a look inside, see what the winds are doing here. There's some very weak rotation, but not very. It's not very concentrated, and it's fairly broad. So a main issue would be straight line winds, I would think, with that storm as it moves up to the northeast. And of course, with the ground being so saturated in spots, also concerned about the possibility of some flash flooding as well. And actually, a flash flood watch covers most of the mountainous areas. You can see why. This is the area that's getting the most storm activity this evening. Around Marlington here and up in the Greenbrier County, just exiting Greenbrier County now, we're seeing some heavier storms around Richwood in West Virginia. Up around Monterey, you've got a pretty good storm right over you as you go up in Highland County there. And a severe thunderstorm warning now up for, I believe that's what, Rockingham County, Virginia. Yep. Just north of Harrisonburg, moving toward the Broadway area. There's another storm. It looks very strong, if not severe at the moment. North of there, go up to Edinburgh and Berryville. Not Berryville, Rileyville. Sorry, I'm a little bit farther south than Berryville here on the radar picture. These are going to be in and out of our picture as we go through the remainder of the evening. So something you definitely want to stay weather aware into tonight. And in fact, even after midnight tonight, we're still going to be in a very soupy air mass. So let me show you some other things that I'm watching here. Let's see, let me go to the SPC site. Now, this is going to show us a bunch of technical stuff, but it's a technical system, and I do think you can understand this if I can kind of break it down for you here. This is overall bulk wind shear. Wind shear is, in this case, winds that are converging into the center of one wave of low pressure, and then you've got Laura back here across Tennessee that's going to be moving in late tonight into early tomorrow morning, especially in the Mountain Empire and far southwest Virginia. Now, the wind shear values are up around 40 knots. That's a fair amount of shear if you get up into one of these favored environmental areas. There's also some wind shear associated with more of a cold frontal feature up here to the north of us across northern Virginia, which is why Harrisonburg and the Highlands are seeing some rough weather right now. Now, this is the RAP forecast, the rapid update cycle. And as we put this into motion over the next 2 to 4 hours, notice how that wind shear goes more into southwest Virginia. We start to get the wind shear increasing across our area. So the instability may go down a little bit, but the wind shear may compensate that somewhat. And so any storm that develops late tonight will have the potential to spin. And it may not produce a tornado, but it's something that, tornado warnings come out when the Weather Service, they're very good about this. They'll hold off until they need to. You don't want to be woken up at 3 a.m. for a false alarm or anything like that. However, I just want to tell you that the parameters are looking fairly robust in terms of shear, and that's not surprising. Anytime you get a tropical depression or a landfalling tropical system that's even been over land for a couple of days, there's still a lot of wind shear around because the winds at the surface are converging into the area of low pressure. The winds aloft don't converge, and so that convergence underneath creates up this directional shear that we see so often in these tropical systems, even though they're just tropical depressions, and Laura is no exception. Now, it'll be coming out of the west this time, and one of the things I'm watching for rainfall is the fact that it'll be coming off the mountains from the west. Usually when that happens, we get somewhat of a downsloping component, and so I'm not sure that areas east of the mountains need to worry as much with heavy rainfall as areas west of the mountains. But it's still a compact system. It has a fair amount of energy in the heart of it, and so we could certainly see some heavier downpours tomorrow. It just may be that where the flood watch is out right now, that may be actually a good call by the Weather Service. If I go there right now, I can show you where our flood watch, or it's actually a flash flood watch, is in effect for. And this is actually what we call a short fuse flash flood watch. This does not include Laura tomorrow. This is for the system. This is actually for the wave of low pressure, or just a general thunderstorm threat that's out there right now. And so that continues until 2 a.m. for basically the New River Valley and southeast West Virginia into northwest North Carolina. That's where they've highlighted here rainfall rates in excess of 2 inches per hour at times could create some flash flooding. And I can tell you, tropical systems, they hold a lot of air. The air mass that comes in can just produce a ton of rain in a very short amount of time. And wouldn't be surprised to see 2 inches an hour in under an hour. 2 inches every 30 minutes is actually possible, 4 inches an hour being the rainfall rate there. So anytime you see this, it's a concern. Doesn't mean that everyone's going to get flash flooding. It's just for the chance of that happening. But in this case, I'm noting where the placement is, and it looks like a pretty good call here. You see the Blue Ridge basically separating areas from the west, areas to the east. The downsloping will kill some of that rainfall as it moves over the mountains, or at least it should kill some of it anyway. Wouldn't be surprised if it kills all of it, actually. But if that's not the case, areas east of the mountains have more of a wind tornado threat to worry about than areas west of the mountains. Although everybody, I think, has to worry about a little bit of something here. So as we go through tomorrow, this is where the Storm Prediction Center has the tornado threat. Basically, they've got a 2% chance, which is your slight risk for much of Virginia, but also getting down, they draw the line here from Bedford to around Pinhook to Martinsville and east. And then the 5% tornado chance is actually highlighted, and even though 5% sounds like a low number, when you talk about a tornado chance, within 25 miles at one point. That's actually elevated for Virginia. So from Richmond down into Elizabeth City here, as you go into Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina, east of Raleigh-Durham, and including maybe the eastern Raleigh area, the Triangle area there, is where the greatest tornado chance is. And the reason is because the remnants of Laura will be crossing into this area at the peak heating of the day. So our instability values will be higher rather than the morning when there's not too much instability, but there's still, I want to point out, still a fair amount of wind shear that we're going to have to watch. So I've got the latest HER model on here just to show you our helicity. This is the amount of spin. I want to show you a few parameters here, but just give you an idea. I've got to make this go up to control it here. So let's show you what's going on now with the helicity, and then as we go through the night, notice how the helicity will actually jump up a bit into, this is the lowest 1 kilometer of the atmosphere where there's the potential for the most spin. And it actually jumps up tonight toward midnight, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and then we may get a bit of a lull and we see another surge. Now this is actually causing a result of Laura coming into far southwest Virginia by 7 a.m. around Wytheville, going up to Roanoke. These values are actually fairly impressive, and again, that's to be expected with a tropical system. They go into Franklin County, Roanoke Valley, some favorable shear values as well, but they're not tremendous by that point. May just be more of a rain event for some areas. So I don't want to say that this is definitely happening, but it's certainly something that we watch. And so combining everything, including the instability, you get what's called the significant tornado parameter. And so this is currently where we have SIGTOR values of 2 to 3 here, approaching 4 in northwest North Carolina. Nothing is really happening at the moment, but just to show you the potential is certainly there. As we go through the night, those SIGTOR values do get up around 1 to 2 area wide. The only area where I really don't see anything happening is in the Allegheny Highlands tonight. But from Franklin County, Lynchburg south, any storm that develops tonight, this is while you're sleeping, this is after 8, 9 o'clock, will have the potential to spin up something, or at least to rotate in a broad sense. It doesn't scream tornado at me personally, but just the fact that these tropical remnants, when they're overland, you can never trust them. You never go to bed as a meteorologist and say, okay, this tropical system's moving through, nothing to worry about here, because the models don't show it. You always watch this stuff because it will always throw you a curveball. It has every time in this area. And so I just want to show you the potential is there. Not only tomorrow morning, I don't want you to get too focused on Saturday and think that we're not going to get anything tonight, because we could see some activity tonight. We do start to notice in central Virginia that we get the SIGTOR values up around 2 or 3, even around Lynchburg. And again, these are just potential, what the storms have the potential to tap. Some of them won't do that. But I think we may see a few warnings overnight and into Saturday. Now, Saturday itself, notice this is why the SPC has that outlook farther east. By the morning tomorrow, a lot of our SIGTOR values have jumped out toward Richmond and down toward North Carolina. The south side's still kind of close to that. This is 8 o'clock in the morning. And then by the late morning hours, it kind of jumps back up again. But by this time, the wind will be coming in out of the west by around lunchtime. So that will take a lot of the activity. I think the downsloping will at that point be an issue. And what that will do is kill the storm chances and clear us out, I think, for the afternoon. So I'm most concerned about 7 a.m. to noon in terms of the impact directly with Laura. But honestly, it's now through noon tomorrow that we need to worry about these showers and thunderstorms. The instability, this is the amount, you have to factor this in as well. This is the instability over the area right now. And we are actually, if you go back to the SPC outlook here and you go to thermodynamics, we actually have some strong CAPE. We've got about 3,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE. Those are moderate values of instability. You can get a tornado when CAPE values are under 1,000 actually. And then sometimes you don't get anything when they're above 4,000. There's lots of other factors involved, but we're very unstable and just a smattering of storms across the area right now. And this is, again, Laura here, what's left of it here across Tennessee and Kentucky. All right, so fast forwarding this, you can see those values stay up around 1 to 2,000 overnight tonight. And the same thing will be said on the HER model. That was the wrap. I'll show you the HER. So we're going to advance it here till about 10 p.m. tonight. We still have Cape where it hasn't rained. A lot of the mountainous areas will be getting storms, but 2,200 to 2,900 for Southside, Lynchburg, and Roanoke. And that will also be the case in Richmond. You can see that's actually a lot of Cape. That's fuel for any storm to develop. And we'll advance it here as we go through late tonight. It's going to be so warm and so humid. That's one of the big factors with Cape. Even though we lose the sun, we still have very modest levels of Cape, under 1,000 for most areas, but Southside and Lynchburg may actually stay up tonight around 1,500 joules per kilogram. That's a fair amount of Cape for that late at night. Coolest part of the day won't be so cool. I don't think lows will make it under the mid-70s tonight, but as we go into Saturday, most of the mountainous areas will be done with this, I think, by the mid to late morning. Areas east of the mountains still have a sufficient amount of Cape for some thunderstorm activity, but by that point, again, the wind will be out of the west. And I'm going to look at the surface wind here. We're going to look at 10-meter wind speed. Because straight ordinary wind, or what we call just pressure gradient wind from the system itself, has a pretty good low-level jet with it at about 5,000 feet off the ground. Some of those winds are going to mix down tomorrow. We may actually get windier as the sky clears out tomorrow, as our wind starts to mix a little bit in the atmosphere. So winds tonight won't be that bad. They'll be out of the southwest at about 10 to 15 miles per hour. The higher gust toward 15 will be up in Floyd County and the higher elevations. Most areas tonight outside of the storms won't see that much wind. And even tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. or so, we do start to get some wind here, but it's after the rain starts to move out. So we do start to see westerly winds at about 15 miles per hour, some gusting up to about 20 to 25 miles per hour possible in Southside. Somebody looked at a wind forecast I posted a couple of days ago that showed the 30 to 60 mile per hour winds in North Carolina. Now that's now changed. It now looks like more like 30. But instead, I thought the track was in Virginia. Well, the track still is, but with a decaying tropical storm, the wind field actually expands outward. And so it's no longer a compact system in terms of all the effects, because a landfalling system loses that ability to hold the wind near it, and it starts to pull it away from the center. So that's why we're seeing less wind, but over a larger area in our forecast here. If you just look at the, look at the radar here. And again, this is a short range model meant initially for the next 6 to 10 hours or so, but we'll look at it for tomorrow morning too. You can see those areas of storms, and I'm not going to get too detailed here, but you can see why the flash flood watch is up for the mountainous areas, because through tonight, that may be the greatest concentration of showers and storms. A lot of you may get hit harder tonight than you will at all tomorrow. Some areas won't get hit all that much. But again, it's all about the potential here. Now notice as we go through 3 o'clock in the morning, we start to see Laura moving into the mountainous areas at Wytheville, Tazewell County here, Bland County, down to Boone and West Jefferson. This is up for debate in terms of how it comes in. Is it going to come in just as an area of rain and not that much thunderstorm activity? Or do we see any discrete cells develop on their own? Discrete meaning out ahead or within the rain, or separate than the rain, I guess is what you could say. If that's the case, there'd be a better chance of severe weather. Everything I've looked at so far looks fairly like widespread rain with embedded thunderstorm activity. Any of these cells that you see popping up, and they won't be exactly where you see them. But this is Saturday at 5 a.m. and you can see there's some embedded storminess in here, some cells that develop. And again, the stronger storms will have the potential to do that spinning thing, and they'll also have potential to drop some extremely heavy rainfall rates on saturated ground. Now, a lot of the rain will make it east of the mountains, but it just may not be as intense and over a longer period. But by 9 a.m. tomorrow, this is already drying. We're already drying out from Pulaski down to Galax, and 9 a.m. tomorrow, it's pretty much raining from Lynchburg to Roanoke and the Martinsville and Danville. So the mid-morning will be the worst of it, I think, in terms of the rainfall. But as early as 11 a.m., we start to see clearing take place. Now, there may be some pop-up stuff out behind it, but the main swath of moisture is going to come through between 7 a.m. and noon tomorrow. And thereafter, it may actually start to clear out. I feel like I just swallowed a bug. This is a rather splotchy rainfall too, but you can see in some of these areas you're getting close to 5 or 6 inches on the forecast model here. That's why the flash flood watch is up, because these individual cells that develop will put in a lot of rain. Notice east of the mountains, Roanoke, Lynchburg, there's not a lot of rain in the forecast actually on some of these models. So again, that's a result of the downsloping that you see. And I'm showing you other models too. This is the rapid update cycle. So Virginia's right in through here. This is tonight. You've got that one area of showers and storms over us. If you haven't had rain so far, you may get some rain later on tonight. That's typically how storms like to work. They're going to start to develop near areas that didn't have the action, and that'll happen again, I think, late tonight. And then as we go through the first half of Saturday, again, that's the worst of it. But as early as 8, 9 o'clock on the RAP model, it starts to clear out here. So they've got it faster. The RAP has it clearing out faster. That may indeed happen. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if most of our action isn't tonight rather than tomorrow. By the afternoon tomorrow, it's going to get windy at times, but there's not a lot of moisture in place at that point because the system's pulled east. By the way, this is a cold front off to the west, and it's going to bring in delightful weather for Sunday. Sunday's going to be fabulous. Dew points only in the 50s, going to feel like early fall, which is not that far off. September the 1st actually is the start of meteorological fall. There you go. We don't like to wait for the 23rd or 21st, whatever it is this year. Want to look at, let me go back to the radar real quick. Make sure everybody's behaving themselves. Got real-time lightning on here so I can show you what's going on, and I've also got rotational tracks there in the red, so I can turn off the regular radar and I can show you where the rotation's being picked up on radar. And this is all very broad rotation so far. So look at that Amherst County storm. It looks kind of interesting too. So there's been a fair amount of rotation with it, but it's so broad. But you can see the lightning there occurring in Amherst County. And I can actually show you the energy with each individual lightning strike, which is pretty cool. But again, Laura's out here, the remnants of Laura. I think it's still a tropical depression, actually. And we've had a couple of tornado warnings in and around Nashville, into Tennessee, and also in Huntsville, Alabama. And that one cell that you see there in Huntsville produced a whole lot of damage here in the northern Alabama. So again, that's away from the center, actually south of the center. And you notice some curling to these cells too in northern Mississippi. So all across this area, there's still a lot of instability and there's still a lot of wind shear to look at. If I show you the surface cape, you're going to be kind of blown away by how high it is. This is the tropical air mass. The high values are in the yellow and the white. And you can see we've got just a very soupy air mass in place with a lot of instability in place through the night tonight. That's what those high dew points will do to you. Current significant tornado parameters, again, are elevated here in northwest North Carolina for our area. You're up around 1 or so. That's not too shabby. We've certainly seen higher, but you've got the same thing around Birmingham and Huntsville, where they've had the possible tornadoes this evening. And looking a little bit closer, this is our, again, current radar here. Some showers moving into southern Franklin County now. That I've noticed in this area, the storms have been dying out a little bit, but there'll be waves of storms throughout the night tonight, more than likely. I've also got some activity still near Greensboro and Winston-Salem. Got a damage report from Washington County, Virginia. Trees reported down here. And again, that's near Lebanon. It's moving into Tazewell County now. Richlands, be on the lookout. You've got a storm moving towards you in Tazewell as well. In Saltville, this has a history of producing some wind damage. And I'm looking up to the west because this is also where our activity will be coming from the rest of tonight. Abington down in Damascus here near Bristol, a strong storm there. But I've got other radars dialed up for you tonight. This is now looking farther west, And this is what's left of Laura in Nashville. They've had some power poles and a tree damage there, trees down, a barn destroyed by some wind and possible tornadic activity here. Zooming in around Crossville, Tennessee, I would bet you this probably has some rotation with it. Yep. You can see that we've got 2 cells with rotation. No warnings out for those. This is in Tennessee, but I want to tell you this is what's going to be coming over us tomorrow. And again, could be producing some rotation here as well. And that I think we will see some warnings coming out tomorrow morning and maybe even late tonight. So I'll be up all night watching it for you here. But you can see actually this is some intensifying rotation. I'm just going to look at a couple of things here. Lower values of correlation coefficient. Let's see. I got a spike there in the. These are in these pixels that are highlighted in Tennessee. Again, this is near Crossville, Tennessee. But you can see there and there, that's where the wind, there's a lot of changing wind in those actual pulses of the radar in that little pixel there. And where there's changes in the wind within that 1 pixel, that's where there's either an outflow boundary or something going through that's making the wind go from this to this. And it can be an indicator of where there could be a mesocyclone or a tornado. And certainly in this case, you do see, again, Crossville, Tennessee, or near Cookville, you can see two areas there of possible rotation. So that's in Tennessee, but then you can go down into Alabama. I've got Huntsville dialed up here, and Huntsville's had a fair share of wind reports, but if you look at the potential here for, I don't see anything jumping out at me, but they've had a few couplets there as well where you can see some rotation. If you put that in motion, look south of Huntsville at this cell. See there near Owens Crossroads, and again, this is not in our area yet. But you can definitely see that storm was spinning there for a time. That's why they had a severe thunderstorm warning with it. And they had something there near Arab as well. So this is just to give you an idea. The timing of the day is different. This is going to be coming over to us at the coolest part of the day, but we still do have a lot of wind shear in place, and we're going to see more wind shear as we go into the day tomorrow. Forecast soundings I've been looking at. This is off of the NAM, and this is, I believe this is in the mountains of Floyd County where I pulled this up. This is tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. This may be off the Floyd County one, actually. This is the wrap. This is for 2 a.m. Okay, so this is middle of the night. You've got, at the very lowest levels, you've got strong directional wind shear. This is the lowest part of the atmosphere. This is the mid layers. That's the upper part. But you do have some low LCLs. You've got some strong speed shear in the lowest levels. Not tremendous, but it's there. And this is correlated before with weak tornadoes or some rotating action there. Potential hazard type is listed as tornado. That doesn't guarantee it, but it's potential. And again, that's in the mountains in the New River Valley tomorrow morning at 2 a.m. This is for, I believe I pulled this up a little bit farther east into Franklin County. Potential is also there for a tornado because you have the same profile. You've got winds that back a little bit out of the southeast, and that is underneath winds coming in out of the southwest at a higher velocity. And so right in through here, this lowest part there is elevated value there of helicity, and you've got instability that lingers again through the night tonight. So depending on how warm we stay tonight will also, I think, be one of the factors that help these potential supercells kind of move along. And I pulled another one up that's got the same kind of profile. So I've been looking at that very carefully for you there as well. This is the 3-kilometer NAM, and again, it shows the activity over us now, and it goes through the night tonight with sporadic activity, again, on and off throughout the night. I don't pay too much attention with where exactly the cells are as much as the overall picture. and placement of the overall rainfall. But again, you can see that we do see that activity, and then here comes more of a general rainfall the way it's looking now, light to moderate to at times heavy rain, but you don't see any red dots in here. This is mainly just moderate rainfall that moves through tomorrow, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning up till about 10. And then by noon, it's out of here. So this will be a fast mover, but that fast movement, while it limits the flood potential, it also kind of enhances the wind shear. So that's something that we need to keep our eye out. Excessive rainfall outlook is with us here day 1 for the mountainous areas. That's why, again, we've got the flash flood watch up. Day 2, they're highlighting the Weather Prediction Center, the Allegheny Highlands tomorrow for heavier rainfall. Even the NRV, I think, but especially in areas of West Virginia near the Highlands and the Greenbrier Valley, that may be the area to watch for any flash flooding tomorrow. And then for day 3, it's out of this forecast, and we start to get more of a different system moving in. So let's talk about what happens from this point on after Laura. And you can see here, we had some, I was wondering if Laura would get absorbed into a cold front and move farther north, or if it would just get kicked out to the east. It's going to just get kicked out to the east. The front is still way off to the west. So for tomorrow morning, you've got, there's the Laura, post-tropical cyclone Laura. You've got all the showers and severe storms out ahead of it. The front's still back here across Indianapolis. Then as you go into later parts of the day, we may see a second surge of storms tomorrow, or a line of them anyway, with the front, not so much Laura. But there will be some gusty winds tomorrow, probably 15 to 25 miles per hour at the most, maybe up to 30. But again, if you've got wet ground, that could cause some issues for you. Sunday, though, again, looks delightful. The front gets through here. Laura's back over the ocean, could regenerate into a tropical storm. We'll wait and see. But you've got high pressure. This is a cool Canadian high pressure system moving back in. We're on the fringe of it, so we're going to get a brief break where dew points go down into the 50s and it feels good, but then it's a brief break. It moves back in. The wind from the southwest pulls that front back a little bit closer, and this looks like a cold rain for what I'm looking at. That dry air is probably going to set up what I call an in situ wedge. You remember the wedge? Low clouds, rain. This time of the year, they're not quite as intense, but they can keep your temperatures down into the 60s and 70s. And that may happen Monday. That may happen Tuesday. I'd say low to mid 70s Monday and Tuesday. And then Wednesday, less of a concentration, but still some pop-up showers and storms. It's going to get hot again after that for Thursday and Friday. Sunday is going to be the day to get your stuff done outdoors, I'd say. And you may be able to squeeze that in for Saturday as well. But that's your update for right now. You can see those storms moving north. Notice how they died out in the Franklin County. But there's more activity off to the west, and it may be a active night for a lot of areas. So don't let your guard down tonight. We've got, lots of activity. And you remember that cell we were watching around Tennessee? They've now put out a tornado warning for that near the Crossville area. So there's going to be rotation around tomorrow and tonight. Not only tomorrow, but after noon, I think things will calm down a bit. That's your update for right now. I'll have more updates throughout the night. I'm about to put a blog out on my Patreon as well. Let you know some of my thinking there once I look at some more data. And just be safe out there. Stay weather aware.